Hello everyone. So it's day 9 in the Trans-America bike race, and we are now just beyond the halfway point in the race. So with kind of 9 days down, they have around kind of 8 to 9 days to go, depending on how they are going to fare and whether they are going to beat Mike Hall's course record, which stands at 17 days and 16 hours. As you can see, Evan is just ahead of that at the moment, and you've got the other, quartet just behind. What's worth noting is actually in the last day, Janie Hayes has managed to kind of catch up to them a bit as this gap has come down, and then the four have kind of been swapping places consistently. Obviously, they've come down from the mountains now and are getting into the flatlands of the straight roads, not many turns, and the winds. And the word is that it's been pretty windy the past few days as they have been riding along there, and we've kind of seen that from their speeds. The distances between these top four is not much really. You got Evan on 2,377, Jon is on 2,300, so there's 70 miles there. But back from Jon to Sofin is 50 miles, so it's there's a stop in it. It's 3 hours or something, so it's not much. Although Evans pulled out a little gap, it's nothing to be worried about at this moment. What's interesting is if we go to the race flow. And we have a look at the leaders. If we can zoom in and kind of look at the past few days. So if we align this up, so what we can see is 20 hours. So this is the past day or so. If we can zoom out a little bit. It's kind of funny trying to get the right zoom on this. That'll do. What we can see is that some of them have decided to start pushing on a little bit. So you can see here that Jon Lester, blue line, took a long sleep. So he's had a 9-hour rest, and that's why he's lost that gap. So we had him in front yesterday, and now he's third. But he's had 9 hours sleep, so he's really rested. Now Benjamin Colwell is just doing his thing as he normally does, which is kind of riding along, not getting huge amounts of rest, but plodding along at a steady pace. He's stopped to sleep at the moment, finally, having had a really long sleep the previous night. What's interesting, though, is we saw Evan out in front by 70 miles on Jon. And the reason is, it's not that he's kind of been riding much faster, maybe a small amount, but actually he took a lot less sleep last night. So you see 16 hours to 20 hours, so really he had 4 hours stopped last night, and he's not going to be able to sleep all that time. So Evans decided to make a bit of a move at this point, really, and cut down his sleep from what he was normally getting, 6, 7, 8 hours, down to 4 hours. How that's going to play out over the next few days, we'll have to wait and see whether he thinks he can manage on 4 hours from now, a night for the next 8 nights, or whether he thinks, he wants to do a couple of days pushing on, Maybe he wants to just try and extend a bit of lead at this point. But the thing to remember is that, he raced last year and coming third behind Lael and Stefan. So he does know what he's doing, and he knows how his body works over these distances. So he's not going to be making rash decisions is the point. Whereas Jon Lester, he's a rookie at the race. He hasn't done it before. He's doing really well, but it's kind of unknown territory for him. So what he does and doesn't do from here is going to be interesting, whether he'll try and chase, or whether he'll keep his sleep pattern consistent. It's a tough decision to make when you are a rookie, because you don't have that experience to fall back on. I thought it'd be worth pointing out a couple of things. I found this photo of Jon earlier on from his team, the Cyclist Bicycle Co. They're a shop. And this is his setup. It looks pretty good on that. He's got his nice kit. It's interesting to see that he's not actually running a dynamo. I found in another photo he has a kind of solar panel charger. It's an interesting choice. Not many people go with that kind of thing, but I guess if it's sunny out there, it is going to work. If he's stopping for longer sleeps every night, he does have that opportunity to charge versus running the dynamo to be able to charge his electronics. It's not something I'd do. Maybe it'd be interesting to see what he thought of that afterwards, because I haven't seen that many people running that option. Obviously, with all the Apidura luggage, like every single thing you can buy from Apidura there, Um, it's kind of a couple of bottles. It's pretty standard setup. Some slightly deeper wheels, but it's a nice choice. And he looks happy here. I did see a post by him where he said he was suffering. So although he's smiling, he's suffering like everyone else. The other thing I thought was worth pointing out is that Sofan in kind of fifth place here, not someone you want to rule out at this point, because actually I was speaking with Stéphane Weger. You might know him as the kind of crazy French guy from Transcontinental. So the first year he did it, he was the first ever person to do it on a fixed gear. Second year he did it, he ended up climbing a mountain, doing hiker bike, got completely lost. So anyway, he's always got a story basically. So if you ever want a story, reach out to him. But he messaged me and said that Sofan, really good rider. He actually had his bike stolen a couple of days before the race started, so he's riding a bike he's not used to, and that could be a factor really. Hopefully he's managed to get the fit and the setup the same, but if not, he could be kind of looking to have some issues later on in the race. But I would have thought it, if he's got 8 days into the race and he's not had issues that have made him stop, he's probably not going to have issues that are going to make him stop. He might be in a bit of pain, but no more than anyone else really. But the point is that he is a veteran, not of this race, but he's done Tour de Vide before, and last year in Tour de Vide he finished in third place in around 20 days. So he is a really strong rider, and he knows he can go the distance, he knows how to look after his body, and he knows how to manage the race. So it's going to be interesting watching him, because I wouldn't rule him out at this minute. He's in the fifth place of this fight, this group, but he's not going to be going flat out at the minute. He's going to be saving some stuff. And I found this photo of him earlier on from the Tour de Vide last year, looking pretty good and looking pretty happy. So I'd expect him to be fighting for a top 3 really. It's going to be interesting. At the moment, it's anyone's race. They're all pretty tired. Evans decided to try and push on a bit. It's going to be interesting to see how the others respond over the next few days, because they are going to have to respond. One thing worth pointing out is that the race is actually now approaching Newton, the famous Newton bike shop. And they will have their live feed going on, so it's worth going and checking that out. You do need Flash, but if you go on their Facebook group, they have got a link to that. You can also find it on their Twitter, but if you just Google Newton Bike Shop, you can find that. And Evan is going to be approaching that soon, so maybe an hour, maybe a bit less. It depends from this. So yeah, it's not far out, so I'd go and check that out. And you can see, it'd be interesting to see all the riders and see how they're looking. I'm sure they'll put on their brave faces when they're into the shop, so they look good. But you'll still be able to see who's looking tired, who's looking fresh, and it might give us some ideas of how they're going to fare in the next few days. If we move back a bit, you've got Lael's record here. So it's interesting. This gap comes down to 4 hours in the end. So Janie's still got to keep ahead of that, because that gap is going to close. As we move back, we have got the main group that is now starting to spread out a little bit as people come through Colorado. You still got a lot of people back in the Yellowstone. Really, the fight for the top 10, top 20 hasn't yet started. Any one of these here could go into the top 10. It's just going to depend how they can nurse their bodies and manage things. We spoke about Hippie yesterday. He's still well in that group, as are plenty of others. And it's worth noting that the front guys are out here. The back of the race is still only, well, the last person is 491 miles into the race, so 800 miles behind. The race is still well open for the top 10, but the top 5 is going to be pretty closed unless any of these have some issues, because this gap's kind of getting pretty big now and is only going to grow. But the fight for the win isn't close. I kind of fancy Jon Lester as the rookie, but Evan, Sofin, Michael, and Benjamin, who's also a veteran, are not going to give up easily. It just depends who can look after their body the best into the next few days before they really start the push to the finish. So that'll be interesting. If you got any kind of riders who have had interesting stories and things like that, then do let me know. Any questions, comments, just reach out. But the race is going to get quite interesting in the next few days as they do start to push out a bit and start to really push for the win. All right, cheers.